For quite some time, there have been rumors of a Wildwood Grove Part 2 expansion. So, on today's episode of What's Next, we dive into Dollywood and see what the future might hold. Will it be a new launch coaster, hyper coaster, or maybe something even bigger? If you're new to the channel, be sure to tap that subscribe button down below for more videos just like this every week. With that all said, here are my top predictions to what I can see coming to Dollywood for a Wildwood Grove Part 2 expansion. Enjoy. On my 2019 coaster road trip, I got the pleasure to visit tons of awesome theme parks all along the East Coast, and the one that surely took me by surprise is Dollywood in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. I went to Dollywood with some high expectations, and man did Dollywood surpass those expectations. Of course, Dollywood is well known for their shows, cinnamon bread, and of course their coasters. They sure have a great collection, but for today we are going to look into the future. We're going to go in depth to Dollywood's lineup and look for expansion patterns, look for gaps in the lineup, and possible space for expansion, because space can give us a really good idea of what they could add. Of course, we will forecast our top 5 coaster predictions with our official prediction at the very end. Be sure to watch all the way to the end, it's a pretty fun episode. First and foremost, we need to look at what coasters the park already has, because that will help us later on when we are trying to look for gaps. The park has a great variety of coasters, including an old enclosed coaster, a kiddie coaster, 2 family coasters, one of which is inverted, 2 woodies, one of which is launched, a beyond vertical drop coaster, custom looper, and of course their unique coaster comes in the form of a B&M wing. As you can see, the park has a pretty solid lineup, nailing almost every major category. Looking for some gaps, a pretty noticeable one is a traditional hypercoaster. This could come in the form of a B&M, modern Intamin, or maybe even a Mach. Mach has really shown their hypercoaster models can compete, and they recently worked with Mach on Time Traveler at Silver Dollar City, so they could be an option. Another gap is a traditional launch coaster. As of now, the park has 2 launch coasters, however, they have yet to add a traditional straight track launch coaster. They have Fire Chaser Express, which has a backwards launch, and Lightning Rod, which has a launched lift hill. A traditional launch coaster like Terran or Taiga or even Copperhead Strike would be fantastic. For gaps other than that, I can see maybe a water coaster, but that's definitely least likely. Okay, we have now looked at the current lineup and gaps in the lineup. So where are some locations these coasters can go? Usually in my What's Next videos, I go around the park and suggest several different areas where they could one day build. Today's episode is going to be a little different because we are talking about a Wildwood Grove Part 2 expansion. We're only going to be talking about one spot of land, and that is the plot of land behind Wildwood Grove. If we are looking at a Part 2 expansion, then I would believe this would be the land it would occupy, not somewhere else in the park. Looking at this land from a bird's eye point of view, there's a pretty solid amount of space, definitely a good amount for a sizable coaster. Anyway, I don't want to get carried off topic. What are the top coasters that could make their way to Dollywood after 2020? First, let's talk about that traditional launch coaster. This is a Vekoma Shockwave, much like Abyssus at Energylandia. This is Vekoma's new launch coaster model, which is their largest one to date. I personally think this would be perfect, and most importantly, it wouldn't just bring something new to the park, but it would bring something new to the whole country. There is no launch coaster like it around. The closest launch coaster is going to be Copperhead Strike at Carowinds, and this ride alone would be so much different. Throw in a set of forceful launches, a top hat, and whippy inversions, it would be a great fit. Also, I need to add, for those of you who think Vekoma is not a very likely option, Dollywood just worked with Vekoma on Dragon Flyer, so I would not be surprised if they add more Vekoma coasters in the future. Next, we're going to talk about another unique coaster. For me, a unique coaster is a ride that not every park has, but would vary based on location, lineup, and parks in the area. They already have Wild Eagle, but I think it's time for a flyer, either in the form of a B&M or Vekoma. I think a B&M is an ideal fit, but Six Flags Over Georgia has a B&M flyer, so if not B&M, then Vekoma is definitely a contender. Fly is set to open at Phantasialand in 2020, and with that being a launched flyer, much like the Shockwave, it is sure to bring something new to the country. Next, we're going to bunch together two models into one. This is either a B&M or Gerstlauer dive coaster. Now, I know Dollywood has Mystery Mine, but a new Gerstlauer dive coaster could add more of a modern take on Mystery Mine while still being much different. I can also see the park not wanting to risk it, so if they don't want to risk it, then a B&M dive coaster would be a good fit also. If it were a B&M dive coaster, I don't see it being one of the bigger models. I see it being one of the smaller ones like Valkyria or Emperor, nothing extra like Griffin or Valraven. Dollywood doesn't need to go for the records, they just need a quality coaster, and B&M is sure to deliver. Next is just a fan favorite, but we know Hershin works with RMC, so maybe a Raptor. I don't really need to explain this one, we all know and have come to love the Raptors, and one at Dollywood would be beautiful, especially with a Wildwood Grove theme. Lastly, before our official prediction is a Mach Extreme Spinner, something just like Time Traveler at Silver Dollar City. A few months back, there were some rumors of coasters that could come next, and those included a B&M Hyper, Indoor Launch Coaster, and Mach Spinner. I would personally love to see a Mach Spinner here because the park has yet to add a spinning coaster. It wouldn't be this crazy terrain coaster, but something more like what's going to Plopsalandia in 2021. If you're not familiar with the Plopsalandia coaster, a good way to describe it is a mix between Copperhead Strike and Time Traveler. Regardless, I think this would be a fine fit to the already impressive lineup. With all of those options thrown out there, here is my official prediction to what I think will come next to Dollywood, and it shouldn't come as a surprise, it's a B&M Hyper. This would fill that traditional hypercoaster gap and become the GP's new favorite coaster at the park. Yes, the closest parks to Dollywood, Carowinds, and Six Flags Over Georgia both have a B&M Hyper, but if they were to build a modern version like Mako, Candymonium, or even Shambhala, I think it could outperform its competitors. It would be in a great location in the back of the park and has more than enough room for a good sized layout. I would say something more like Candymonium. Imagine a massive turn finale around a tree that glows up at night, kind of like the butterfly tree. It would just be beautiful. B&M Hypers are always a show stealer and would be a great fit at Dollywood. As always, I like to throw in a bonus coaster. This did not make the list because it is easily least likely, but is still worth a shot. It's a modern intimate hyper, something just like the Wallaby Belgium coaster. The shining characteristic of this is that it would be different than Carowinds and Over Georgia and would give a new thrilling experience to America. Thank you all for watching today's video. If you enjoyed and want to see more just like it, click this playlist right here. If you want to subscribe to my channel, click my little logo right here. I'm Zach from Theme Park Media signing off, and I will catch you in the next one.